All right, so good afternoon once again. I think wala na tayong inaantay. Can we begin now? Can you thumbs up if you would like to start now? Thumbs up, please. Thumbs up emoticons lang. Ayun. All right. May nakita akong nag-thumbs up. All right. All right. Sige, so we shall begin our discussion for today. So, our topic is about the format of Make a Wine College. The purpose again is for you to be familiar with the contents and form and style of Make a Wine College. Please know and please be reminded that each school has its own form and style. So since you are currently enrolled at Make a Wine College, it would be nice that you are aware of its contents, the form and style of Make a Wine College. No? So essentially, the Make a Wine College is adapting the APA style in thesis writing, or what we call American psychological style. No, that's why one of our topics in our webinar series is
Bakit hindi ko naririnig?
the use of APA 7 style in thesis writing. That is one of our topics in our webinar series. And please take note also that this lecture discussion is recorded for the purpose of asynchronous learning, so that for those who are not able to attend today, they will still have the chance to listen to the lecture that we had now. And for those who would like to review whatever topic or contents that we will be discussing today, you will have the chance to revisit or review the discussion. So again, our lecture discussion is recorded. Any objection about the recording of the discussion? None? No violent reaction?
None, sir. It's okay.
All right. Okay. Sige, let's start. So when you say APA style, this is the official packet style guide of the American Psychological Association. The recent CMO of the Commission on Higher Education, which is CMO number 15, series of 2019, states that all researches in the graduate school must be able to be published, must be publishable rather. Meaning to say, if you want to publish your research paper in the future in any international journals, you must be utilizing the APA style in writing your research paper. So researchers who follow the APA guidelines would express their ideas in a form and style both accepted by and familiar to a broad established readership. So this is the most commonly used style in scientific research writing. This APA style offers essential writing standards for faculty members, graduate students like you, and other researchers. So what are the benefits of having familiarity with APA or the American Psychological Association? One, you will learn how to avoid errors in composition and grammar. Example, uh, they thought that data is a singular word, but they do not know that data is a plural word. So meaning, pag sinabing data, pwede mo sabihin na the data presented in table 1 show. Yung iba kasi ginagawa nilang singular. Parang ginagawa nilang shows. Parang gano'n. Imbis na the data are, sasabihin nila the data is. Parang gano'n. So, the American Psychological Association style will also teach you how to properly use of grammar, the correct grammar. Because grammar and composition are also essential in scientific writing. Although you need not to be an English major for you to be able to write a research paper. Anyone can be a researcher. Anyone can write a research paper for as long as you know the proper grammar and proper composition. I'd like to highlight that one of the requirements also in writing a research paper is the principle of coherence. No, when you say coherence, your paragraphs or statements are connected with one another. No, that's coherence. The APA style will also allow you to choose appropriate formats for statistics, figures, and tables. Traditionally, you will see a table that has a column and a row, no? Pero ngayon hindi na, puro row na lang siya. 3-row table na lang siya. Kaya kung makikita nyo na buo pa yung table na merong column, traditional pa rin yun, hindi yun updated table. And then also the APA format will teach you how to credit sources and avoid charges of plagiarism and how to construct a reference list through a wide variety of sources. That is why in our in one of our webinar series, I included there APA 7 style, because that APA 7, that means to say the 7th edition is the latest edition. That edition will teach you how to write the correct referencing or references. So what are the elements of a thesis or dissertation in the graduate school? Thesis is for masterate program. Dissertation is for doctorate program. They mean the same, magkaiba lang siya ng level. So essentially, there are three elements of a research paper: the preliminaries, the body of the thesis, and the references. Now let's begin with the preliminaries. The preliminaries are composed of the following: title page, approval sheet, acknowledgement, dedication, abstract, table of contents, list of tables, list of figures, and list of appendices. These preliminary components are included if you are done with your research paper, meaning to say you completed your research paper. But since you are just going, this is for for those who are done with their proposal defense. In your next stage of defense, final defense, these parts are expected to be present in your preliminaries. No? Again, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 parts of the preliminaries are expected to be present for those who are going to present their final paper. Take note also the difference between proposal defense and final defense. For proposal defense, the tenses should be future tense. Proposal defense. Why? Because that is the time that you are proposing the paper, meaning to say, hindi mo pa nagagawa yung paper and you are proposing that the paper be approved, to be conducted. To be conducted, meaning to say that the tenses should be future tense, mga will be, no? But after the proposal defense, after the approval of your proposal defense, and the panel members have approved your proposal paper, you're now going to collect your data. Kindly visit the GC. I attached there a form of forms that you will utilize for your implementation. Yung mga communication letter, yung mga ethics form, yung mga informed consent, lahat nandun na. For those who will implement na. Pero for those who are not yet done with their proposal defense, what are expected from you are the following: title page, approval sheet, table of contents, list of tables, list of figures, and list of appendices. So ano yung hindi pa present sa proposal defense? Of course, acknowledgement not yet. Because acknowledgement is done when after you finish your research paper, you are going to state your appreciation to the people or group of people who have contributed to the accomplishment of your paper. Eh hindi ka pa tapos, kaya therefore, itong acknowledgement mo, hindi pa dapat makikita sa proposal defense mo. Dedication, of course, you are going to identify your special loved ones whom you dedicate your paper. Eh, hindi ka pa naman tapos, kaya hindi pa naman ine-expect yan. Abstract is done when you are also done with your paper. Abstract is composed of the following. The 4 parts: objectives, methods, findings, and conclusions. So ibig sabihin, if you are going to present a proposal paper, you do not have findings and conclusions yet. So therefore, acknowledgement, dedication, abstract are not yet present during your proposal defense. What are expected are the following. Title page, of course. This is the page where you write your title and the program you are pursuing and the school where you are connected. Approval sheet is the paper or the page where you see the name of your advisor that you are being endorsed for proposal, the name of the chairman, and the name of the 2 panel members. No? Table of contents, as the term implies, this is the page where you see the different contents of your paper from chapters 1 and 2, including the subcomponents with corresponding pagination. That is also true for list of tables, list of figures, and list of appendices. Example of a table that you can see in your proposal is the respondents of the study. Usually naka-table yan. Table 1, respondents of the study, that is found in chapter 2. One example also of figure or list of figure is your conceptual framework or conceptual model of the study, figure 1. Usually, in your case, that is an IV and DV model. No? And then, of course, the list of appendices, these are composed of your permission letter, communication letters, validation letters, including the instruments that you are going to utilize. So those are the parts of the list of appendices. So before I continue with the body of the thesis, do you have any clarification about the preliminaries and the difference between proposal and final defense in terms of contents?
None, sir.
None, so
None, sir.
None, sir.
okay.
None, sir.
Liwanag naman, ano? Alright, sige.
None, sir.
Thank you. So we will now proceed with the body of the thesis paper of Mekawayan College. The first part of the Mekawayan College format is chapter 1, which is entitled The Problem and Its Related Literature. So if you came from another university, their format is chapters 1, 2, and 3, and related lit is found in chapter 2. But at Mekawayan College, the related literature is incorporated in chapter 1. That's why chapter 1 is entitled The Problem and Its Related Literature. So that's the main title of chapter 1. So what are the components of chapter 1? The first part of chapter 1 is introduction. What is introduction? This is the careful presentation of the importance and validity of the problem. It is important that you are able to provide validity of the problem. If you are able to listen to the recorded lecture about identifying an issue, problem, or gap, yun. You should be able to present the validity. And your paper is valid when there is a problem, issue, or gap that are to be solved. Sige nga, if you really watch the recorded video, what are the 2 examples of gap in the literature or the possible problem in the literature?
Blind spot, Blind spot and blank spot, sir.
Yun. You should be able to establish whether there is a blind spot or blank spot in your study that is found in the literature. So what is the difference between blind spot and blank spot? Blind spot happens when, upon identifying a topic and review the literature, you found out that there are so many literature written related to your topic. Gaano kadami yung madami? Mga nasa 50. Kasi for masteral paper, you're required to produce 50 literature. However, there's so many studies, but their findings are contradicting with one another. They are conflicting with one another. And that is what you call blind spot. Example, your topic is about, example lang to ha, the utilization of blended learning as your independent variable and the student's academic performance as your dependent variable. So when you review the literature, you look for the relationship between blended learning approach and academic achievement, or the effect of blended learning on the academic achievement of the students. So you were able to download 50 articles or 50 studies that are related to your topic from the EBSCO host. Do you have an access sa EBSCO host natin? Meron na ba kayo o wala pa?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Meron na po.
Very
Yes,
good.
sir.
Doon kayo magda-download ng mga articles kasi sarado ang may kawain college ngayon, hindi kayo papapasukin sa library. So everything today will be online, no? That's why there is an EBSCO host. So you look for articles, and upon reading the 50 articles, you found out that 30, for example, 35 out of 50 articles stated that the use of blended learning can significantly influence the performance of the student. Ibig sabihin ng influence, the more you use the blended learning, the higher the academic achievement of the students. That's what you call influence, significant influence. However, there are 15, kung 35 yung kanina, ito naman, 15 authors who found out that blended learning did not affect or did not influence the academic performance of the students. So you will see that there are contradicting findings in the literature. Nag-aaway-away sila, in short. They have a conflict, and therefore that is what you call blind spot. On the other hand, when you say naman blank spot, after reviewing the literature, wala naman maibigay sa iyo ang literature na mga resources. Halimbawa, topic mo is parang the kind of technology that the students are using and the academic performance. Parang your topic is about the better the technology, the better the academic performance. Kaya lang, nung nag-review ka ng literature, wala ka masyadong makita. Parang ang nakita mo lang 5 lang or less than 5. That is what you call blank spot kasi konti pa lang. That is the reason why we need to establish that, because if your problem is a blind spot, you will do a quantitative research design. You will use quantitative research because the purpose of quantitative research is to test the hypothesis. On the other hand, if your problem is a blank spot, meaning wala kang makita or konti, your goal is no longer to test the hypothesis. Instead, your goal is to generate or add more hypotheses. If your goal is generation, what is the opposite of quantitative?
Qualitative.
Very good. So you will perform a qualitative research design. So you need to say, for those who are enrolled in research, it is important that you are able to look for literature after identifying a topic. So mag-identify muna kayo ng topic, IVDV, and then saka kayo maghahanap ngayon ng literature because the literature will tell you whether your problem is important and valid. That is what I mean when I say there should be a careful presentation of the importance and validity of the problem. And the problem that we are referring to is the gap in the literature. GAP, gap in the literature. And the gap in the literature, the gaps in the literature are what we call blind spot or blank spot. Depende yun sa mababasa ninyo. That is why when you are enrolled in research, you need to read a lot of literature. You need to allot time in reading the literature. I totally understand that for those who are working in DepEd as a teacher, you are overwhelmed with so many works. But since you are enrolled in research, kindly find some time to read the literature because the literature will help you identify possible problem or gap. Kasi kung wala kang problem, wala kang reason para gumawa ng study mo. And the real definition of a problem is the gap in the literature or what we call blind spot or blank spot. Pa-thumbs up nga po kung clear yung sinasabi ko or hindi. I want to see your thumbs up kung clear yung blind spot and blank spot. O yung ibang hindi nagta-thumbs up, naputol siguro yung thumb. Ayun, nadagdagan na. All right, very good. So, there should also be a systematic and orderly presentation of background information with educational trends related to the problem, unsolved issues, and social concerns. Ito na yung sinasabi ko sa inyo ng mga issues. Mga issues or unsolved issues. So, when we say systematic and orderly presentation, later on, I will give you tips on how to write your introduction. No? On how to write your... mute po muna ng ating sound system. Yan. Pa-mute po muna ha para wala tayong disturbances. Bawal po magsalita pag nagle-lecture po para hindi magkarindigan tayo. Tsaka para hindi rin mahirap magsalita. All right. So I'm going to give you a tip on how to write your introduction. Para sa inyong lahat ito. The TIOC approach. So T stands for the trend. You need to highlight the trend or trends in the field. Pag sinabi nating trend, ano ang layman's term ng trend? Ano ang layman's term ng trend? When you say, pag sinabing trending ka, ano ka?
Uso.
Uso.
Napapanahon po.
Sikat.
Napapanahon.
Sikat po.
Okay.
In. Kung ano yung in.
In. All right. Very good. Pag sinabi kong 3210, napapanahon?
Hindi po.
Pag sinabi kong iPhone 13, meron na ba?
Wala pa po.
Wala pa po.
iPhone 12 pa lang. So,
Yes.
so ibig sabihin,
iPhone 12 Pro Max po.
Pro Max, updated. iPhone 12 Pro Max. Very good. Sige, okay, mute ko na ulit kayo. That means to say that in research, you do not use obsolete references. You do not use old references. You are only allowed to use updated or up-to-date references. Kaya nga sinabing trends in the field. So how updated is updated? According to the Commission on Higher Education, it must not be more than 5 years. So if today is 2021, dapat ang pinakaluma nyo 2016 na reference. So ang hahanapin nyo ay mga 2016. Pag meron pa kayo mga 1980, 1990, mga 1970, mga 1800s, 1700s, nako po baka ano yan, baka ma-disapprove kagad ng panel members yan, hindi tatanggapin yan. Dapat updated ang ating references because you are going to highlight the trends in the field. Ibig sabihin, if your topic is blended learning, you are going to discuss the trend about blended learning. So una mong i-discuss, what is blended learning all about? What is the construct all about? Kapag sinabing blended learning, makabago dapat ang inyong references dyan. So pwede kayong kumuha ng mga references and you can come up with about 2 to 3 paragraphs about blended learning. May citation o wala?
Sir, meron po dapat.
Meron. Kasi hindi galing sa inyo yung information. It is important that when you borrow, when you adapt information from a source, there should be an in-text citation. Ibig sabihin ng in-text citation, the citation is within the text. Pwede mo sabihin na, according to Nuki in 2019, parang ganon. Or pwede mo muna sabihin yung paragraph, tapos sa dulo, ilalagay mo, close parenthesis, Nuki, 2020, and then close parenthesis. Or pwede mo rin naman sabihin na, in 2020, Nuki found out that. Parang gano'n ang pagsasite, dapat palaging updated. And that's how you highlight the trend. So if your second topic is about academic achievement, you should also have paragraphs that are related to academic achievement. In short, my dear students, when you write the introduction, please do not forget to discuss your variables. Kung ano lamang po yung variables ninyo, yun lamang po ang i-discuss ninyo. If, for example, your variables are blended learning and academic achievement, those two variables must be present in the discussion of the trends. Because the trends that you're going to discuss must be about the topic that you selected and was approved by the panel members. All right? Because after presenting the trends, so meron ka ng 3 paragraphs ng blended learning, another 3 paragraphs ng academic achievement, that's the time that you pinpoint the issues underlying the trends. You are now going to identify the problem or the gap in the literature. Example, you may say na in the study conducted by Santos in 2018, he found out that the use of blended learning does not significantly influence the academic achievement of the senior high school students. However, in 2019, De La Cruz espoused or discovered that the use of blended learning can significantly contribute to the academic achievement of the students. Nakuha niyo po ba yon? Na pinag-away-away mo yung mga authors. Ang tawag doon ay issue. Kasi meron silang gap. Gumawa ka ngayon ng conflict. Pero yung conflict na ginawa mo, galing sa literature yun. Hindi galing sa iyo. Therefore, I will underscore to all of you that when you write your research paper, your personal experience is not being asked. You are not allowed to share your personal experience, your personal opinion, nor your personal observations. Since this is evidence-based research, anything that you write in your research paper must be according to the literature po. Kasi hindi naman po kayo gumagawa ng editorial, hindi naman kayo gumagawa yung mga nasa newspaper na hinihingi opinion ninyo, hindi naman ganon. When you say scientific research paper, the true essence of being scientific is always evidence-based. Dapat may pinanggagalingan lahat ng sinasabi natin. Whenever we say something, we should always cite the source of all of our information. No? And then after you pinpoint the issue, this is now the perfect time that you state the overall objective or intent of the paper in the light of the gap that was identified. So pwede mo sabihin na based on the foregoing findings of the study, it is therefore the objective or intention of this paper to evaluate whether the use of blended learning approach can really influence the academic performance of the students. Parang ganon. That's how you state the overall objective. And then, of course, yung letter C, you discuss the possible contribution of the research in attempting to advance or improve disciplinary theory, research, practice, and policy. So one contribution that you may state is that you will be able to solve the current conflicting findings in the literature. Another contribution is if ever you found out that blended learning approach is effective, this approach can be adapted by teachers in order for the students to improve their academic performance. Kasi alam naman natin, di ba, nasa public school, bibihira ang gumagamit ng blended. Most of you rather, are using modular. Tama ba? Nauubos ang oras ninyo sa pagpiprint ng module?
Yes po.
Tama,
Yes po.
paggawa.
Oh, yun.
Meron nga po. At paggawa, sir, at pag-evaluate.
Yun, oo. Bibihira lamang yung mga nasa public school na nag-Zoom, nag-Google Meet. Ang tawag doon, blended. When I say blended kasi, this is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous. Pag sinabing synchronous, ito yon. You are able to attend the online class. The advantage is that you listen directly to the lecture at the same time. You are given the opportunity to ask questions from the professor. That's the advantage of synchronous. But of course, there are public students who do not have the capability to have an online connection. Or the worst, yung mga technology nila ay hindi kaya mag-online. Kaya gumagamit tayo ng asynchronous. Pag sinabing asynchronous, maraming ways. Halimbawa, itong lecture na to recorded at pinanood ng mga hindi naka-attend ngayon, ang tawag doon asynchronous. Or sa public school, gumawa kayo ng module. Instead na i-discuss nyo, sa module nyo na ipinadala at sila na yung mag-aaral sa bahay with the guidance of the parents. Kaya mga parents ngayon at saka mga guardians, sila na ngayon ang mga mga non-licensed teachers ngayon. Mga nagtuturo pero walang license, no? Pero ang maganda, nabawasan na yung chismosa sa kalsada kasi busy na sila sa paggawa ng module ng anak nila. Dati makikita mo na dami nakatambay sa kalsada. Bukod sa COVID, nag-iiwas sila sa COVID, at least na nauubos sa oras nila sa pagsagot ng module. Kaya dapat yung mga teachers must be very careful in evaluating the performance of the students. Talagang dapat actual. Kasi kung yung sinagutan lang na module ang pagbabasihan, baka mamaya kasi mga magulang lang nagsasagot niyan eh. Kaya naman meron kayong tinatawag na performance task, di ba? And written output, tama ba? That's how you evaluate the
Yes, sir.
performance of the student, no? Pero ako mas gusto ko yung yung performance task kasi actual mo makikita kung talagang natututo yung estudyante or hindi. Pero yung mga sinasabi, of course I have nothing against that. This is just my personal opinion based on research. Kasi pag ang pinagbasehan lang natin yung mga sinagutan na sinubmit na walang proof, baka mamaya yung guardian lang ang Kaya pati yung mga parents ngayon, bumabalik sa pagiging elementary tsaka pagiging high school minsan kasi tumutulong sila sa pagsagot ng module. Which meron din ng mga advantage kasi nagiging busy sila, nagiging active sila sa kanilang mga bahay. But the point is, the contribution of the topics that I am sharing with you, the use of blended learning, should be implied in your paper. Contribution to the body of literature and contribution to the practice and policy. Dapat meron kayong ma-identify na contribution. So, that's how you write your introduction. Kasi yung iba, ginagawa nila yung introduction, copy-paste ng copy-paste mula sa Google. Hindi ganun. So you write the trend, and then after writing the trends, mga 6 paragraphs yan, you identify now the issues or contradicting findings, and then you state the overall objective based on the literature and the contribution. Pag yung 4 na yun present, pag binasa ko yun, trends, issues, objectives, and contribution, perfect ang inyong introduction. Alright? So that's how we write introduction under chapter 1. Introduction pa lang tayo ha. Any comment or any question? So far clear po ba ang pagsulat ng introduction?
Okay po, sir.
Yes po.
Yes po.
Ay, marami.
Yes po, sir.
Maraming salamat. Clear. All right. Sige. Now let's proceed to the next part of chapter 1, which is review of literature. After the introduction, you review the literature. This means to say that you systematically present the literature that are related to the problem. And when you present the literature must be thematic according to themes, o topical according to topics. Halimbawa, your independent variable is blended learning approach, and your dependent variable is academic performance. So you have 2 topics, you have 2 themes. So meron kang heading, blended learning approach, and then under that, anything all about literature that are related to blended learning. And then after that, academic achievement. So you write anything about academic achievement. Nakuha niyo po ba yun? There should be an adequacy of presentation with reference to the problem, research design, and significant findings of the previous studies. Kaya isa-summarize ninyo yung nabasa ninyong literature dito sa review of literature. O sige, para mas matulungan ko pa kayo kung paano nyo gagawin. Meron tinatawag na SA approach. Kung kanina sa introduction, meron akong TIOC approach. Ito, meron tinatawag akong SA approach. Ibig sabihin, for every topic, so in your case, kung isa ang IV mo at saka isa ang DV mo, dalawa lang ang thematic presentation mo ng review of literature. For every theme, you can use the SA approach. So what is SA approach? S stands for synoptic dimension approach. From synoptic was derived from the word synopsis. Ano ba ang layman's term ng synopsis?
Summary.
Parang patikim, sir. Patikim
Patikim.
kung ano yung nandun.
Mukhang mas
Kung ano nandun sa story.
Overview.
Overview.
Ayun, gusto ko yung mga word na yun, patikim. Sige, okay.
Sorry po sa word.
Okay lang. Pwede yun.
Overview.
Pinatikim mo sila ng overview ng summary. Tama yun. Tama naman yun. Kasi sabi ko layman's term, kaya Tagalog talaga yung pagkakasabi niya. Pero tama yun. So pinatikim mo sila ng overview, summary ng topic. So ibig sabihin, in short, you discuss what the construct is all about. No? That is synoptic dimension approach. You define what the construct is all about. What do you mean by construct? That is your variable. That is your topic. No? Kaya nga, per topic, meron kang definition and discussion of the construct, no? And then, you may state what has been said about the variable. Ano ba yung sinabi tungkol sa variable? Yung RED principle, R-E-D principle. Whether there are relationships, effects, or differences. Or even its historical development, pwede mong ilagay dyan. Under synoptic dimension approach. Saan ba nagmula ang blended learning approach? At whether ang blended learning approach ay merong relationship, ay merong effect sa academic achievement. Parang ganon. So marami yun. Marami kang makikita sa literature nun. Isa-summarize mo siya. But my reminder, when you make a summary or when you write the literature, kindly ensure that you do not copy verbatimly and paste in your paper. Kasi magkakaroon kayo ng kaso. Anong kaso yon?
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism po, sir.
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism po.
Very good. You will avoid the case of plagiarism if you borrow any information or concept or literature from any authors, but you cite them, and you paraphrase the contents. Pag sinabing paraphrase, you do not copy verbatimly or word for word. Instead, you paraphrase them. Pag sinabing paraphrasing, you make your own paragraphs without copying the same words, but the idea is the same. Nakuha niyo po ba? Gagawa kayo ng sarili niyong statement or paragraph, but the content or the ideas are the same. So hindi mo siya kinapi verbatimly. So that's what you call paraphrasing. To avoid plagiarism. Kasi po, ang May Kawayan College ay meron tinatawag na software that will detect the plagiarism act of the writer. Ibig sabihin, isasalang yung paper nyo sa software, ira-run, tapos malalaman, mamumula doon kung alin doon yung copy-pasted verbatimly. At pati yung website kung saan yung kinuha, matitrace din ng plagiarism scanner. Ang tawag doon, plug scanner. So you have to be careful with that. Kaya as early as today, sinasabi ko that you need to paraphrase. Again, there is nothing wrong copying or borrowing the idea of the previous author when you review the literature. There's nothing wrong with that for as long as you make proper citations and you paraphrase the contents of the literature. Nakuha niyo po ba yun? So
Yes, sir. Okay po.
Thank you. That is what you call synoptic dimension. That is the S. What about the A? A stands for argumentative dimension approach. Argument. Ano ba sa Tagalog ang argument?
Pagpapalitan po ng idea or kuro-kuro.
Aha. Ano pa?
Pagtatalo po.
Pakikipagtalo.
Pagtatalo.
Yun ang Tagalog ng pagtatalo. You are
Tatalo.
going to present the argument or the conflicting findings of the literature. No? So meaning that you build arguments either through sentence of problematizing. Pag sinabing sentence of problematizing, pinag-aaway-away mo na yung mga findings ng bawat authors. Kasi when there are conflicting findings, meaning to say that there is already the need for the study to be conducted. That is what you call argumentative dimension. So for every theme, present dapat itong synoptic dimension and argumentative dimension approach. So kung meron kang dalawang themes, dalawang beses ka gagawa ng synoptic dimension at saka ng synoptic dimension at saka argumentative dimension approaches. Liwanag po ba yun? That's how you review the literature. Any question about review of literature?
Clear po, sir. Okay na po.
Okay naman. Very good.
Opo.
Good. Next, theoretical framework. This is the third part of chapter 1. This is the clear presentation of the theory which explains why the study exists. This is the theoretical framework. And of course, together with the theoretical framework is the appropriate development of conceptual frame with reference to the problems of the study. Papunta na tayo sa conceptual framework. But let's discuss first how to write theoretical framework. And I'd like to give you another approach, the SEC approach. Ay, ang dami niya ng approaches na na natutunan. Una, sa introduction, TIOC. Sa literature review, anong ulitin sa literature review?
SA.
SA po.
Oh, ngayon, SEC approach. So, when you write the theoretical framework, you are requested first, letter S, to state the theory. And take note that you are not going to enumerate many theory, only one. One theory that best fits to your study, that is most related to your study. No? And in stating the theory, I would like to suggest some sentence stems para hindi na kayo mahirapan. Halimbawa, ang theory mo ay kay Maslow's hierarchy of needs. No? So you may say, the theoretical basis of this paper is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Ganun yun. O kaya naman, this study is theoretically anchored on Maxwell's leadership style. Example lang yun. Or, this paper is premised on, saka may lagay, yung theory na nakuha mo. So, meaning to say, kahit alin sa tatlo pwede yung gamitin. Hindi nyo kailangan gamitin pare-parehas. Isa lang, pwede na. That's how. Kaya pag nag-check ako ng paper at nakita ko na yan, ay, tama na kagad ang pagkakasulat ng paper ninyo. Alright? Of course, merong letter E. SE. Letter E means you explain the theory. Hindi mo lang in-state, in-explain mo pa. Example, the theoretical basis of this paper is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, comma, which states that, saka mo ngayon ipaliwanag kung ano ibig sabihin ng Maslow's hierarchy of needs according to literature. No? Okay naman, this study is theoretically anchored on Maxwell leadership theory that states, which states that, saka mo ilagay kung ano ibig sabihin ng Maxwell's leadership style. Nakuha niyo po ba yun? That will make your paper more readable. Tsaka matutuwa ang panel members pag ganyan. And of course, pangatlo, you contextualize the theory. Anong ulit sa layman's term ang contextualization? Ginagamit nyo sa DepEd yan. Pag sinabing contextualization and localization. Meaning?
Inaangkop po.
I'm sorry?
Inaangkop sa setting po ng lugar, sir.
Nangkop. Very good. Pwede yun. Or kung paano mo nilapat at ginamit. Ayan, tinagalog ko na. Kung paano mo ginamit yung...
To place something.
Kung paano mo,
Kung paano po inugnay.
Inugnay, alright. Since proposal defense, kung paano mo ngayon iuugnay yung theory mo doon sa paper mo. That's what you call contextualization of the theory. So that's how you write your theoretical framework. You're going to use the SEC approach. Again, you are not going to enumerate many theories. You are only going to use one theory that is most fitted in your study. This is not a collection of theories. No? Isa lang po, and kindly observe the SEC approach. And then this is followed by the conceptual framework, usually IVDV. Ito, example nito. Ito siguro, pwede ilagay dito, blended learning approach, tapos academic achievement. Parang ganun. Ito ang nakalagay na example, awareness on waste management. Tapos under that kasi, upon reviewing the literature, meron pa siyang mga sub-indicators. Ang tawag dito, this is the main variable. And then merong sub-variables. One main variable, another variable, main variable, and then these are also sub-variables. Question, how many variables, how many main variables do we have in this figure? How many main variables do we have?
2, sir.
2.
2, very
Yes, sir.
good. Very good. Kasi yung nasa ilalim, ang tawag doon ay
Sub-variable.
sub-variables. Alright, so malinaw yun ha. And these sub-variables can be written under the main variables if you are able to review the literature, because these sub-variables must be coming from the literature po. Hindi kayo maglalagay ng sub-variables na hindi galing sa literature. So halimbawa, pag sinabi mong blended learning approach at dinefine ng literature na ang blended learning ay synchronous and asynchronous, yun ang ilalagay mo sa ilalim ng blended learning. No? Tapos academic achievement of the students. O di, halimbawa, pag sinabi ng DepEd na ang academic achievement ay yung mga subjects, nilalagay mo yung mga subjects dyan. English, Filipino, Math, Science, Araling Panlipunan. Pero pwedeng content subjects lang. Parang ganon. So that is what you call conceptual framework. But it is also important that aside from presenting your IV and DV, by the way, your IV is found on the left side and the DV is found on your right side. Palaging ganyan ha. Hindi siya pwedeng magkabaligtaran. The arrow must be connecting from your left side to the right side of the screen. No? Hindi pwedeng babaligtarin nyo yan. So again, on the left side is your independent variable. Your right side is your dependent variable. As the term implies, dependent variable is dependent on the independent variable. Ibig sabihin, changes that occur in the dependent variable are caused by the independent variable. Nakuha niyo po ba yon? Example, academic performance of the students is an example of dependent variable. Alright? O sa panahon ngayon, ano sa palagay ninyo ang nagko-contribute sa academic performance ng estudyante? Ano lang, hypothetical lang muna tayo. O kaya, based on your knowledge of the literature, what contributes to the development or improvement of the academic performance of our students? Anyone?
Academic. Maybe their readiness in online classroom situation.
That's possible. Their readiness, no? Because this online thing is new to all of us. To all of us. Hindi lang sa mga estudyante. Their readiness to online, to blended, or to modular approaches. Tama yun. What else?
Mental health, sir.
Very good. That's one also, the mental health, no? Kasi right now, the students are parang not accustomed to the current situation. And they are adapting. They know that learning happens only in the classroom. But now they're
Yes,
no
sir.
longer in the classroom. They are in their own house, in their homes, no? So they are adapting, and that's part of mental health. Na yung kung baga, nung wala pang pandemic, sabi sa mga teachers, bawal manakit ng estudyante, bawal mangurot, bawal mamalo. Diba? Pero ngayon sa bahay, nako, puro palo inaabot ng bata kapag hindi nakukuha ng ng anak nila yung yung lessons. So even the students are having mental distresses kasi nasanay sila
Yes, sir.
na pampered ni teacher. Kasi si teacher walang magawa. Dahil mapapagalitan si teacher ng DepEd kapag nanakit, kapag nag-corporal punishment. Pero ngayon sa bahay, yun, nagkakaroon sila ng adaptation to the new environment that they have. What else?
Sir, I think yung parents' involvement,
Yeah, the parental involvement is
parental involvement,
also contributory kasi
pwede din po.
there are parents who are working, of course, no? And
Yes.
there are parents whose academic achievement is high. And therefore, kung yan ang nagtuturo sa bata, minsan mas madaling matuto ang bata. There are also parents na ang kanilang academic achievement ay hindi ganun kataas. Mga iba nga dyan, baka elementary graduate, mga high school graduate, no? So magkakaroon ng differences ngayon in terms of handling the children. Siyempre, iba ang approach ng meron ba mga parents na no read, no write, di ba? Lalo sa public schools na hindi naman talaga nakapagtapos ang parents, no? So that's one that can also affect the academic achievement of the students, no? What else?
Pwede na ba, sir, yun ang title?
It's up to you. I'm giving you examples and then later on for a provide.
Parang maganda, sir, yung parents' involvement.
Pero titingnan natin ha kasi nagre-release na kami ng mga topics na
Opo. Parang wala, sir, yun. Kung pwede lang, sir.
Basta ganit ko, first come, first serve. Kaya nga yung naka-enroll sa EDUC 208,
Ayan.
magpa-check na kagad kayo para pag nagpa-check na kayo, masalang na kayo sa defense. Pag na-approve na, hindi na makukuha ng iba kasi hindi pwede maulit.
Opo. Kasi, sir, the more na nanonood kami ng mga video nyo, parang nakikita namin mali kami. Kaya ulit kami ng ulit.
That is the purpose.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
The purpose of teaching you. Diba? Yun naman.
Opo. Pero natututo po. Salamat po.
Sige, no problem. Kaya nga, mas maganda, makapagpa-check na kagad kayo. Kasi pag nagpa-check kagad kayo, may schedule na kagad kayo ng defense. Lalo yung naka-enroll sa EDUC 208. Don't worry, pag nagpa-check naman kayo, pag mali or meron ng katulad, magsasuggest naman ako. Walang nagpapa-check sa akin na umuuwing luhaan na walang
Okay po yun, sir.
Oo.
Sige po.
Kaya lang, yun lang ang tanging face-to-face natin, yung checking ng chapters 1 and 2. All the rest online. Ang nag-iisang checking is one-on-one checking ay physically, you must visit me in my house. Don't worry, may protocol naman, may health protocol, saka may social distancing tayo sa checking.
Okay. Thank
So,
you, sir.
magre-release ako ng date ng checking. Pwede na kayong magpalista ng pangalan. Kasi kung sakali mang mali yung IBDV ninyo, i-correct ko na kagad para maisalang ko ng defense. Minsan ako na nga nagsasuggest ng title, ng problems, framework, design, etc. etc. Kaya halos lahat, 100% na nag-proposal defense, accepted as it is, no? Kung meron mang revisions, very minimal na lang. Hindi na kayo ma-stress. Ayoko na makadagdag sa mental stress ng mga public school teachers kasi marami na kayong stresses, no? So, on February, mag-schedule ako ng checking ng February 1. February 1. Yung gusto na magpa-check, ipopost ko sa EDUC 208 mag-ilagay nyo na yung pangalan ninyo. Pag na-check ko yon, ang defense natin ay February 7, Sunday. Ang defense ay Sunday para hindi makaabala. The earlier, the better kayo makapagpa-schedule ng defense, no? Kasi bakit? Para pag nakapagpa-schedule kagad kayo ng defense at natapos kagad kayo, pwede na kayo mag-data gathering kagad. Para pa nag-enroll kayo ng thesis writing, final defense na kagad kayo, tapos na kayo kagad. Kasi yun ang gusto kong mangyari sa inyo, mabilis kayo makatapos. Para pa nag-open ng ranking ng DepEd, edi meron na kagad kayong MA, meron na kayo magagamit na credential. Okay ba yon?
Yes po.
All right.
Yes po, sir.
Yes po.
Sige. Going back,
Yes po.
yung checking ng February 1, magpo-post ako sa GC ng EDOC 28. Ilagay nyo nila yung pangalan ninyo para malaman ko kung ilan ang darating dito sa bahay, no? For one-on-one checking. So going back, this is your conceptual framework, and as I've mentioned kanina, academic achievement is multifactorial, especially during this pandemic time. So magbasa na kayo ng literature kung ganun ang topic ninyo, no? So this is an example of IVDV, and my point is that after presenting your IV and DV, there must be a discussion of the contents of IVDV. Example, pwede mo sabihin na Figure 1 presents the conceptual model that will be used in assessing the influence of awareness on waste management on waste management practices. Parang ganon. Dinidiscuss mo siya. Tapos pwede mo sabihin na awareness on waste management practices refers to awareness on regulations, awareness on standards, and awareness on health environmental effects. O galing lang yun dun sa independent variable mo. O tapos, meanwhile, waste management practices would refer to the respondents' collection practices, disposal practices, and recovery and processing practices. O parang ganun. So that's how you discuss the IV and DV or the conceptual model. Dapat yung laman niyan, gagawa nyo ng discussion in paragraph. So itong topic ng waste management, pwede itong gamitin ng MAED major in science. Kasi meron silang subject na ganyan eh. O bakit ko sinasabi yon? When you propose a topic, your topic must be aligned with your discipline. If your major is in administration and supervision, dapat tungkol sa educational management ang topic ninyo. If your topic is about English, dapat tungkol sa English ang topic ninyo. Yung mga walang kamatayang reading comprehension, mga phonemics, phonetics, phonemic awareness, English anxiety, etc. etc. So, yung example yun. Please go back to your major subjects. Kasi hindi i-approve kapag ang topic na pinopropose niyo ay hindi align sa inyong program. Bawa, admin and supervision ka. Tapos ang pinopropose mo pang PE, ay malayo yun. Hindi siya align. Pang MAED PE. So iba-iba lang kayo ng topic, but the approach, the processes, the content, the format, the form and styles are the same. Topic lang kayo nagkakaiba-iba. All right? So now let's proceed to the statement of the problem.
Sir,
Yes po.
pwede po bang mag-question lang po saglit?
Sure, pwede.
About po dun sa conceptual framework po. May instances po ba na nagiging dalawa po yung independent natin or dalawa po yung dependent? Sa case po na yon, yung flow po dito maapektuhan po, right? Tama po ba? Paano kung naging dalawa po yung dependent variables ko? Doon po ba nagkakaroon ng case na pwedeng magkaroon po ng moderator or something dun sa flow? Yung flow po ng effect ng independent dun po sa isang dependent and then going po sa dependent, or kasi po may yung sa akin po na ginagawa ko, dalawa po halos yung lumalabas na dependent variables ko po. So, may case po na ganun, sir. Tapos state po lahat po rin yun doon, lahat po nung dependent and yung independent po.
That is very possible that you add more variables, and it's up to you. Approve na ba yung paper mo?
Sir, hindi po ako nakapunta po sa iyo.
Ano?
Kasi po may nangyari po last time po, nag-message po ako sa inyo.
Okay.
Pero working po ako, natapos ko po yung chapter 1 ko po.
Okay.
So, tinignan ko po hanggang doon. Lumabas din po siya sa statement of the problem ko po, syempre po. So, malamang po dun sa statement of the problem ko po, maidagdag ko lang, naging dalawa din po yung dependent variable ko po, nilabas ko rin po doon. Tama po ba?
Of course, there is a big possibility na you may have multiple independent and dependent variables. That is very possible. Now, if in case you have two dependent variables, dapat magka-align yung dependent variable mo, yung isa nasa taas, yung isa nasa baba. Tapos yung arrow mo connecting one IV to the first DV, dapat may arrow yon.
Opo.
Another IV connecting to the second DV, another arrow yon. Huwag ka na mag-moderating variable kasi mahihirapan ka lang. Ayoko muna kayong mahirapan at this point in time kasi gusto ko munang ma-appreciate niyo ang research. Kasi ito yung kinaiinisan at kinatatakutan at iniiwasan ng nakararami sa inyo sa DepEd. Kaya gusto ko munang ma-appreciate niyo kaya pinapasimple ko lang muna. Now, kung kaya mo na magdalawang dependent variables ka, that's well and good. Pero kung ayaw mo masyadong ma-stress, mamili ka na lang ng isang dependent variable, then i-maintain mo na lang yung isa.
Thank you po, sir.
Para hindi kayo masyadong mahirapan. Ako,
salamat.
Sa ngayon kasi, ang goal ko is, kung hindi man nyo ma-love ang research, ma-like nyo man lang. Ang ayoko lang yung magkaroon kayo ng angry emoticon sa research.
Salamat po, sir.
Sige. Kaya pinapadali, as much as possible, pinapadali ko lang muna. Pwede mo ng isang IV tapos isang DV. I-reserve mo isang DV mo just in case hindi ma-approve yung DV mo na yung ipopropose mo, may naka-reserva ka. I-reserve mo lang.
Okay po.
No? Tapos, pag nag-doctoral na kayo, saka nyo na palawigin yan. Saka na kayo mag-extrapolate and magdagdag at magparami. For now, I would like you muna to learn the basic standards of research, and then later on, you explore the complex part of the research. Okay lang ba yon?
Opo, sir. Thank you po.
Welcome. But of course, no one is stopping you from adding more variables. But for now, ang in-example ko lang muna is isang IV at saka isang DV para ma-appreciate nyo muna na madali ang research basta tama ang proseso ninyo. Alright? Sige. Now, going back, the next part of chapter 1 is statement of the problem. Sa statement of the problem, ang palagi nating pagbabasihan yung IVDV. This is your IVDV. The screen that you have now is your IVDV or what you call Conceptual Framework of the Study. And bakit hindi pa ako umaalis dito sa screen na to? Kasi this will be your basis in developing your major and specific problems. Nakuha nyo? So, from here also, pwede na kayo magkaroon ng title. Sample lang ko kayo ng title. The influence of the respondents' awareness on waste management, ayun ang IV mo, influence on their waste management practices. Nakita nyo yung title? Hindi nyo siya mabubuo pag wala kayong IV and DV. Kaya mahalaga na may topic muna kayo. Topic muna bago development ng title. From the title, pwede na kayo makabuo ng major problem. At tingnan nyo, pakinggan nyo ako ha. You may take down notes if you want. Sabagay, mababalikan nyo naman to, recorded naman to. You may say, the major problem of the study is called how may the influence on waste management on waste management practices be described or be determined? Ulitin ko. The major problem of this study is how may the awareness on waste management practices be determined? Question mark. Ganun ang format ng Mekawayan College. Patanong ang major problem nila. And then after that, specifically, this study will seek to answer the following questions. O bakit will seek? Kasi gagawin mo pa lang. Hindi mo patapos. Kaya future tense yan. Pero pagtapos mo na yung paper mo, that's the time na magkakaroon ka na ng past tense. O will seek to answer the following specific questions. So papunta ka na sa specific question. So in this framework, makakabuo kayo ng 3 specific questions. 1 question for the IV, another specific question for the DV, and another specific question for the arrow. Kaya yung 3 na yan, may meaning yan. Pwede kang bumuo ng 3 specific question. Sampulan ko kayo, number 1. How may the awareness of the respondents on waste management be described in terms of 1.1, awareness on regulations, 1.2, awareness on standards, and 1.3, awareness on health environmental effects? That is your number 1 question. O baka naman pwede nyo na akong tulungan sa number 2 question about DV. Any volunteer? Anyone? No one. O sige, ako na lang. Pwede mo
Try po.
try, sige.
Try po.
Try.
How may the waste management practices be described 1.1
2.1.
2.1, sorry. 2.1 collection practices. 2.2 disposable practices. 2.3 recovery and processing practices.
Very good. That is your second specific question. Ayun.
Thank you po.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Dahil dyan, meron kang reward. Dahil nakuha mo ng tama yung number 2 question. Meron kang +1. Okay lang ba sa'yo na magkaroon ka ng +1 sa grade?
Basta't po 0 siya. Basta't po 0 po yung una. 0 plus 1. Mathematics rin po kasi.
Oh, kasi kung may +1 ka, kung 1 ang grade mo, +1 magiging 2.
Meron po sana akong objective 0 tapos po plus 1. Salamat po.
Nagkaroon ng plus, bumaba naman ang grade.
Opo.
That's your number 2 question. Number 3, pwede masabihin na does the awareness, DOES, does the awareness on waste management exert significant influence on waste management practices? Yun. Yun ang number 3 question mo. Itong arrow na to. Kasi yung arrow, 3 ibig sabihin yan. Pwedeng influence, pwedeng effect, pwedeng impact. Mamimili lang kayo sa 3. Pero kapag straight line lang, without the arrowhead, relationship lang yon. Kaya magkaiba ang relationship dun sa 3 unang nabanggit ko. Alright? So that is your number 3 question. And of course, other panel members would add an additional 4th question, such as what implications or what management implications may be derived from the findings of the study. Yun. So meron ka ng 4 specific questions out of the framework mo. So naka-align ngayon ang title mo, ang framework mo, major problem, and specific problem. Yun, pasado ka na sa proposal defense kasi napakita mo na alignment. Dito pa lang, sa chapter 1 pa lang to, wala pa tayo sa chapter 2. So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng statement of the problem. Hindi ko nababasahin yan. Kasi actually, binigay ko na actual example na. Ito yun. Ito yung mga binanggit ko kanina. Ayan, no? Ito, ang ginamit dito, effect. Pero sabi ko nga, mapa-effect, mapa-influence, mapa-impact, pare-parehas lang sila. Nakuha nyo? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Ayan. Di pa man natin nababasa sa slides, naunahan na natin. Pero kaya ko ginanon kasi pinakita ko sa inyo na pwede na kayo mag-derive mula doon sa IBTV ninyo. So sino nagsasabing mahirap ang research? Napakadali lang po ng research. Basta alam niyo yung tamang proseso ng research at mga tamang gagawin, no? And of course, let's proceed to the next. The next is hypothesis of the study. When you say hypothesis, this is a scientific assumption or scientific guess. Assumption about the relationship of two or more variables. Ulitin ko. Yung number 1 question, how many variable can you assess?
1.
Yun. Kasi sa question ko actually meron na kayong clue eh. How many variable is walang S, ibig sabihin man lang yan. Sige. Second question, how many variable?
1 po ulit, sir.
Galing naman. Ayun, number 3 question. How many variables can you see?
2.
2.
Dalawa na po.
Dalawa na. O sige. Ano yung dalawa na yon?
Kung IB
Awareness, sir, and practices.
Okay, very good. So, naging bi-variable na siya. Kung kanina unique variable, ito bi-variable na siya.
Respondents, awareness, and management practices.
Okay, itong number 4 hindi na yan kasama kasi implication lang naman yan eh. Pero going back to the hypothesis, ano sabi ko kanina? This is the scientific guess about the relationship of 2 or more variables. So ibig sabihin sa Tagalog, gagawa tayo ng hypothesis kung yung question ay merong 2 or more variables. From the first 3 questions, alin doon ang merong 2 or more variables?
Number 3 po.
Number 3, very good. Ang tanong, ilang hypothesis ngayon ang gagawin?
Dalawa po para po dun sa IV at saka sa DB po.
Ulitin ko. Hypothesis is a statement of assumption about the relationship of 2 or more variables. About the relationship of 2 or more variables.
1.
Isa lang.
Only one hypothesis, sir.
1 only.
Ayun, galing nyo naman. Nakuha nyo kaagad. Ibig sabihin, from these problems, isa lang ang bi-variable, isa lang ang hypothesis na i-develop natin. And most commonly, ang hypothesis na diniderive natin is null hypothesis. Pag sinabi nating null hypothesis, we are stating that there is no significant effect or relationship between the 2 variables. Pag sinabi naman nating alternative hypothesis or research hypothesis, there is a significant effect. No? So in this case, isang null hypothesis lang ang i-develop natin. So ito yon. The respondents' level of awareness does not significantly affect their waste management practices. So null hypothesis lang po yung ating ilalagay. So that is about hypothesis of the study. Clear?
Okay po, sir.
Any questions,
Opo.
clarifications, please?
Clear po.
All right. Significance of the study. This is the part where you clearly present the significance of the study, including its role in current contemporary development. Meaning to say that you are going to orderly identify probable users of the research. Ibig sabihin, who will benefit from your study? Pwede mo ilagay dito yung mga principal or teachers, students kung sila ay magbe-benefit, or future researchers kung magbe-benefit sila. Hindi lang orderly identification of the probable users, including specific ways on how the findings could be used. Halimbawa, one of your beneficiaries or significance of the study is the principals, no? Pwede mo sabihin na, topic mo is about blended learning. The findings of the study could shed light to the school principals by providing them an idea that the provision of technological resources in the school is important because blended learning can significantly affect the performance of the students. Nakuha nyo? Parang ganun ang significance of the study. You're going to identify specific ways on how they will benefit from the study. What benefits are they going to get? No? Next is scope and delimitation. When you discuss the scope and delimitation, you need to answer the following questions. First, what is your study all about? And when you say what is your study all about, you need to discuss the variables of your study. When I say variables, the independent variable and the dependent variable. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng what is your study all about. Second, you also need to discuss who are your possible respondents. When I say who are your possible respondents, I am referring to are your respondents going to be the teachers, the students, no? Pero never mention of the name of the school. For data privacy purposes, you will never mention any name of the school. Pwede mo sabihin na in selected schools in the district of Baliwag. In selected schools in the district of Hagonoy, for example. And yun yung who, no? And then how many? Pati yung how many ilalagay mo na dyan. And when? When do you plan to conduct the study? Is it during the school year 2020-2021 or the school year 2021-2022? Parang ganon. Ilalagay nyo yun. Yung school year. Is it the first quarter only or second quarter? Parang ganon. So you have to specify those answers. When you are able to answer those questions, ito yung sinasabi natin na sufficient delimitation of the problem area in terms of the content, time, place, and subjects of the investigation. So that is what you call scope and delimitation. And of course, finally, definition of terms. When you define the terms, you may use operational and conceptual definition of key variables. You're going to use both of them. What is the difference between the two? When you say conceptual definition, you define the terms based on how the authors define the terminologies rather. Example, blended learning approach. Pwede mo sabihin na, according to Cruz, blended learning approach refers to, ayun, meron kang citation. Alright? Ang tawag doon ay conceptual definition of terms. O paano mo masasabi na operational? When you say operational definition of terms, this is defining the term based on how you use the term in your study. Example, students' academic achievement as used in the study refers to the student's performance in the following content subjects: English, Filipino, Math, Science, Araling Panlipunan. Parang ganon. So meron siyang specific na mga subjects na gusto mong isama. Ang tawag doon, operational definition. At ang clue doon, meron kang babanggitin na as used in the study or as will be used in the study, this term refers to, parang ganyan. Ang tawag doon, operational definition. Clear po ba? So I guess I am done with chapter 1.
Clear po.
Okay po.
Chapter 1 is over. Any question about chapter 1?
Clear po.
Clear po.
Ay, very good. I'm happy I have a very intelligent set of students this trimester. Napakatatalino, napakabilis ng pick up. Ang tataas ng IQ. Okay, so kung wala nang tanong sa chapter 1, let's proceed to chapter 2. And chapter 2 at Mekawayan College is entitled Methods and Procedures. The first part of methods and procedures is what you call research design. There should be a concise description of the research method and justification for its choice. And you must be familiar with the different research designs. Especially if you're going to use descriptive research design, yun, kailangan alam nyo yun para ma-define nyo yung descriptive research design. Therefore, para maisulat nyo ito, kailangan nyong hanapin yung discussion ko sa YouTube channel ko about descriptive research design. I will not discuss that anymore kasi diniscuss ko na yan doon sa YouTube recorded video ko. Pakipakinggan na lang, no? There should be a sufficient description or field procedures followed in the collection of data as to when, where, and how data are to be obtained. No? So that is the first part of chapter 2, entitled Research Design. The second part is respondents and settings of the study. At Mekawayan College, in the masteral level, you're only allowed to use district level. So if you belong to the district of San Rafael, as early as now, you get the population of the if, for example, your respondents are teachers, you get the population of teachers for each school. Kasi kailangan silang maging part ng iyong respondents and setting. Saka ka ngayon magra-random sampling, no? Kaya dito, you should be able to discuss the appropriate sampling design and sample size. Again, I have a discussion about sampling design and sample size in my YouTube channel. Kindly refer the discussion about that topic in my YouTube channel. I will not repeat that. Para yung aking mga video sa YouTube channel ay hindi pa ulit-ulit ang discussion.
Sir Nuki, I have a question regarding po dun sa design, sir. Maikli lang. Sir, if the research is experimental, allowed po ba ang isang school lang?
I am very sorry, but during this time of pandemic, experimental research is definitely a big no-no. Because when you do an experimental, you will be needing control and experimental group. And asking your students to be part of your experiment is not allowed because face-to-face, as per the IATF and the Department of Education, is not yet permitted. So therefore, we are not allowed to conduct any experimental type of research.
Sir, kaya kahit po mga activities lang online?
Opo, hindi po pwede. Kasi mahirap ang online. Merong factor, merong parent and guardian factor. Kaya hindi natin masisigurado kung talagang estudyante ang gumagawa. Hindi
Ganun
nasa
po.
school, talagang nakikita natin at namomonitor natin ang experimental natin sa school. Kasi nasa atin yung estudyante. Pero ngayon nasa bahay, wala tayong control. Sinabi ko nga kanina na iba't ibang klase ang socio-economic status ng mga estudyante natin. Merong mga no read, no write ang parents. Meron din namang highly academically qualified na mga parents. So mahirap mag-compare ngayon. Sa panahon ngayon, mahirap gumawa ng experimental at mahirap mag-compare ng mga klase ng estudyante dahil iba't iba ang sitwasyon ng mga estudyante ngayon.
Hindi po. Ayan, sir, may natutunan na naman. Uulit na naman. Thank you.
Again, that is
Hi, sir.
a reminder to
Thank you
everyone.
po.
Hi, sir.
Hi, hello. Kindly state your name para ma-recognize ko naman kayo.
Maylene mga
Ay,
sir po.
Hi, Maylene. Sige.
Opo. Kanina pa po ako nagsasalita, sorry po.
Okay.
Yung tinatry ko po, kung okay po yun kay ma'am, yung convenience sampling po. Convenience sampling. Sir, okay po ba yun? As in, kasi dahil nasa online situation po tayo ngayon, kung ano po yung, kung sino po yung pwede sa convenient time po ng mga teachers or i-survey mo po or padadala ng questionnaire, pwede po ba yung gamitin, sir?
Hindi po. As much as possible, gumagamit tayo ng random sampling.
Random sampling po. Opo, sir. Thank you po.
Yes, the term implies convenient. Parang at yung...
Talagang no, sir, yung experimental.
Opo, hindi
talaga po.
Hanggat nasa pandemic pa tayo. Kapag
Okay.
ng lahat at safe ng lahat at pinapapasok na sa school ang lahat, pwede back to experimental na tayo. Pero for now, hindi mo na pwede po talaga.
Opo.
Sayang po. Opo.
Qualitative po ba, sir? Bumabagsak po yung ating convenient sampling po. Kung quantitative po, talaga pong sa random sampling po tayo. Tama po ba?
Pag qualitative, ang ginagamit natin dyan is more of purposive sampling. Kasi when you say purposive sampling, you have a criteria set in selecting the respondents.
Okay po, sir. Thank you po.
Alright. So yun, pakibalikan na lang po yung lecture ko about sampling design and sample size. No? Alright. Let's proceed to the next. The next part of your paper is instrumentation and validation. My special request to all is for you to exhaustively review the literature. Kasi the literature can already give you possible instrument that has reliability index or Cronbach's alpha. The requirement for your instrument to be used is that it must be valid and reliable. You are not allowed to use instrument that is not valid and reliable. The advantage of reviewing the literature is there is a possibility that you can get an instrument that is already reliable and valid. And that is represented by Cronbach's alpha of not lower than 0.7. Usually Cronbach's alpha value is ranging from 0 to 1. The more the value, the coefficient gets closer to 1, the higher the reliability. And the acceptable value is 0.7. Kaya mas madali na mag-adapt ng reliable instrument na basta may Cronbach's alpha kesa gumawa kayo ng sarili nyong instrument. Because if you develop your own questionnaire, it will undergo the tedious process, the difficult process in subjecting the instrument for validity and reliability testing. Again, meron akong lecture about validation and reliability testing sa YouTube ko. Pakipanood na lang just in case magde-develop kayo ng sarili nyong instrument. But of course, I do not want you to develop your own. Sana mag-adapt na lang kayo ng readily available na para mas madali kayo makatapos. Kasi if it is readily available and reliable na, all you need to do is just to write a permission letter from the author. I-email nyo lang siya. Kasi the article is usually presented with the email address of the author. So pwede nyo siyang i-email. Or kung hindi naka-attach yung instrument at palagay nyong align doon sa inyong research paper sa topic ninyo, kayo mag-email doon sa author. Pwede kang magpakilala, pwede mo sabihin na, good day, my name is Shirley V. De La Cruz. I am from the Philippines and currently pursuing Master of Arts in Education, major. Anong major mo, Miss De La Cruz? Let's say major in Administration and Supervision. Tapos pwede mo sabihin na I am at Mekawayan College, for example, and I am the breadwinner of the family and my parents are sick and I do not know if they are COVID positive and I do not have enough money to bring them to the hospital. Magpaawa ka muna. And then along this line, may I request that your standardized or reliable instrument be sent to my email because I will use your instrument in my study. Para ganun lang ang gawin mo. I am from the third world country and my family is poor and I cannot pay for an online parang an online instrument that can be downloaded with fee, with payment, parang gano'n. So pwede mong i-email yung yung author. Tapos ipapadala naman yan sa iyo. Tapos sabi mo na lang na when you publish your research paper, you will assure him or her that his or her name will be cited in your paper. Matutuwa pa yun kasi magkakaroon siya ng citation sa paper niya. So that's my recommendation because if you develop your own instrument, naku po, matrabaho yan, magtatagal kayo. You will, lalo ngayon pandemic, mahirap magpa-validate, mahirap makipag-communicate. When you say validation, you need to seek experts in the field. Bibihirang experts. Pag sinabing experts, talagang dapat marunong sa research at marunong sa content. Hindi yung kapitbahay mo lang or hindi yung kumpare mo, hindi pwedeng ganoon. Hindi rin pwedeng porket EPS or PSDS, na yan, expert na yan. Itingnan pa niyan yung track record sa research at saka sa field niya. So, mas madali kung mag-a-adapt na kayo ng reliable instrument with Cronbach's Alpha. But if you develop your own instrument, I am not stopping you from doing that, but you need to subject the instrument to validity and reliability testing. Clear po ba ang instrumentation and validation?
Yes po, sir.
Yes po, sir.
Very good. All right.
Yes.
The next is data gathering procedure. In data gathering procedure, you need to state the step-by-step procedure that you're going to employ in gathering your data. Please do not forget to employ ethical considerations by ensuring that informed consent will be sent to the respondents. Doon sa GC ninyo, nag-send na ako ng attachment. Meron ng mga informed consent. No, paki-open na lang, pwede nyo magamit yon. But what is important is that your respondents agree that they become part of your study, that they will be respondents of your study. If they do not sign your informed consent, therefore, they should not be forced to become part of your research paper. And part of ethical consideration is that you have to ensure the anonymity of the respondents, and you have to ensure that your research will not produce harm to the respondents, and kindly avoid the use of very young respondents, very young. When I say very young, yung mga elementary tsaka high school. Siguro mga senior high pwede na. Yung nasa right age na mga 16, 18 and above. Because sometimes these very young respondents are not yet in their own minds, no? Not yet reliable. Very young pa sila. And the paper should not also touch on sensitive issues such as issues on LGBTQ, issues on religion, no? Kasi hindi dapat natin pinag-aaway-away ang mga religion and even yung mga LGBTQ, hindi dapat nagiging issue yan. Therefore, it should not produce harm to any of the group of people. Dapat ang makita dyan ay good. Ang effect niyan dapat ay good. And you must treat the data with utmost confidentiality. Kasi part of your data gathering is there should be a compliance to Data Privacy Act. Kung ano yung magagather yung information, hindi nyo dapat ipagkakalat yung kung kanino galing yung information na yan. Kaya part ng respondents of the study ninyo is that you will not write the name of the school. Instead, you will decode them. Halimbawa, School A, School B, School C, School D, and the number of teachers per school. Parang ganon. Basta hindi dapat makikita or matitrace kung saan galing yung data ninyo for the purpose of data privacy. Or else, kapag kayo ay nakasuhan ng data privacy, that is a criminal charge, meron kayong criminal liability, kaya hindi dapat kinukuha ang name, mga gender, age, monthly income. Huwag nyo na pong kukunin yung mga ganong profile kasi bawal po yun. Kasi that is personal sensitive information na hindi dapat natin kinukuha. Alright? Even the name of the respondents, any names, that is not allowed to be included in your paper. And of course, since today's pandemic, face-to-face is not allowed, you need to learn how to develop an online survey instrumentation or Google Forms. Again, balikan nyo yung aking YouTube channel. Meron akong video doon kung saan itinuturo kung paano gumawa ng Google Docs or Google Forms, no? Online survey instrument. Hindi ko na ulitin yun. Kaya ako na-record para balikan nyo na lang. Alright? Basta sa data gathering ninyo, ito yung mga dapat mabasa. No? Part also of being ethical is asking permission from the district supervisor o kung gusto nyo, division superintendent, dapat palaging may permission. At yung mga letters na yon ay nai-attach ko na po sa ating GC. Paki-open na lang, ka-attach, kasi send ko lang. Yun yung mga sample forms ninyo, template na yon, gagamitin nyo na lang. I-fill up nyo na lang ng mga informations. And of course, kaya ko pinasama yung mga estudyante rito sa statistics because part of chapter 2 is statistical treatment. There should be an appropriateness of statistical treatment and data processing. And the advantage today is that you are going to use the SPSS. Tuturuan ko kayo kung paano gumamit ng SPSS. Gone are the days that you need to do manual computation. But of course, for those who are enrolled in statistics, ang gagawin nyo po ay i-open nyo yung video again about descriptive and inferential statistics. Meron na po tayong video about that. Pero we will have another session about the use of SPSS. Ipapakita ko sa inyo through Zoom kung paano gamitin ng SPSS. But what is more important, more than computation, is making sense of the data, analyzing and interpreting the data. That is more important than computation. Of course, computation is one thing, but making sense of them is another thing. Please take note also that if your variable is a if your question rather is a univariable question. Pag sinabing univariable question, ilang variable meron?
Isa po.
Very good. Sa first three questions na binanggit natin kanina, alin doon ang univariable questions? Kung natatandaan nyo pa, sa chapter 1.
1 and 2.
Very good, 1 and 2. Bakit natin tinitrace? Because univariable questions are always treated with descriptive statistics. Gagamitan nyo ng descriptive statistics. Ano ba yung mga descriptive? Mean, median, mode, standard deviation, percentage. Balikan nyo yon, nasa lecture yon sa YouTube channel natin. Ibig sabihin, yung problems 1 and 2, pag univariable yung problem, hindi na kayo lalayo, descriptive statistics lang po ang kailangan doon. Tatapatan nyo siya ng descriptive statistics. On the other hand, if your question is by variable question, Sa case natin, alin doon yung bivariable question?
Number
Number 3 po.
3.
Number 3.
Very good.
Number 3.
Okay, very good. Oh,
Three, sir.
ano yung pangalawang klase ng statistics? Kanina descriptive. Ano yung pangalawa? Kung may descriptive, merong
Inferential.
very good inferential statistics. So, tawag dito, paki-review na lang doon sa YouTube channel natin yung descriptive and inferential. Ibig sabihin, if your question possesses 2 or more variables, inferential statistics nang gagamitin mo. Kung purely relationship, pwede na doon ang Pearson R. Pero pag effects, influence, impact, hindi lang basta correlation, magre-regression analysis ka na. So balikan nyo yon. Bakit kailangan yon? Kasi sa statistical treatment, lahat ng problem, tatapatan nyo ng statistical treatment. Problem number 1, problem number 2, and problem number 3. Yung 4 hindi na kasi implications lang naman yun eh. Narrative lang yun eh. Nakuha niyo po ba yon? And finally, huwag kalilimutan ang references sa dulo using APA 7th style. So magkakaroon tayo ng another session ng APA style kung saan pati yung pagsusulat ng referencing ay ipapaturo ko rin sa inyo. Pero ang dulo ng chapter 2, references. Kasi lahat ng ginamit ninyo sa chapters 1 and 2 ninyo ay dapat merong references. Ibig sabihin, lahat na nasa chapters 1 and 2 ay dapat present sa references and vice versa, yung nasa references ninyo dapat makikita rin doon sa in-text citations ninyo. Maliwanag po ba ang chapters 1 and 2?
Yes, sir.
I am now
Yes po.
opening the platform
Yes
Opo.
po.
for clarificatory questions. Q&A na tayo ngayon. I will answer all your questions related to chapters 1 and 2 writing. Ang galing naman, walang tanong. Ang tatalino talaga ng mga estudyante ngayong semester na to. Mukhang nakapag-adjust na sa new normal. Siguro nung first half sa DepEd, stress na stress. Ngayon, mukhang nakakabawi.
Natanong na kanina, sir. Thank you po.
Natanong na Miss Maylin, kaya hindi mo natatanong. Very good. Sige. Tama.
Sir, pwede po bang yung dinidevelop ngayon na experimental ay ma-turn sa descriptive?
Pwede. I-try niyong i-turn. Pagpunta niyo sa akin, saka ko i-return.
Turn, return, sir, ano?
Turn
Sige po.
sa akin, return ko. Basta pag nagpa-check kayo at pumunta, ay ikaw naman Miss Divine, nakapunta ka na rin.
Opo.
At naabutan mo naman na habang nag-enroll ka, di ba? May checking ako noon.
Opo, sir.
I'm happy to inform you na 100% na nagpa-check dito simula ng first sem ay pasado lahat sa proposal defense.
Okay po. Nice to know kasi hindi naman sasayang yung effort kasi nasa process kami, sir, ng writing eh. Thank you po.
And this is the reason why I invited all of you to listen to me right now how to write chapter 1. Ang pinagkaiba lang, yung mga nasa proposal ay future tense, yung papunta na sa final defense, ipa-past tense nyo na.
Ay, past tense, yes, sir.
At nakapag-proposal defense na, mag-uumpisa na ng data gathering, magsisik na ng permission, informed consent, etc. etc.
Okay po. Thank you.
Okay, meron pa bang question? Nakapagod din pala magsalita ng tuloy-tuloy yan, no? Nakaka-haggard.
Ang sipag niyo po, 2 to 3 hours.
Oo, talagang gano'n.
Kaya mapapagod po kayo, sir.
Oo, nakapagod din pala. Kaninang umaga, nag-accredit pa ako, pakukuha accreditation. 8 to 12. Tapos kayo, alauna ko kayo numpisahan. May meeting pa ako ng 3:30.
Thank you po.
Okay lang. Meron pa bang clarification? Silence means none. Malinaw lahat. May natutunan ba kayo? Yun na lang ang tanong ko. Sige, may natutunan.
Meron po. Marami po,
Sobrang
sir.
dami, sir.
Marami po.
Kahit
Yes po.
Meron po.
Marami po, sir.
kahit konti.
Malinaw.
Thank you po.
Opo.
So, sa palagay nyo, confident na kayo na makakapag ano na kayo, makakapag ayos na ng chapters 1 and 2.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Panahon lang po.
Time na lang,
po.
sir, talaga.
Panahon na lang po.
Sige, ang ireregalo ko sa inyo sa Pasko, relo, para marami yung time na pwedeng mag-uwa.
Time na lang talaga, sir, ang kulang eh.
Bigyan nyo ng time para hindi masayang oras. Para hindi masayang enrollment ninyo.
Okay, sir. Sir Nuki. Last na lang po.
Yes po, Miss Maylin.
Opo. If ever po na i-adapt ko po na instrument po sa akin pong gagawin ay mula po sa inyo, mag-i-email po ako sa inyo, sir.
Mula sa akin? Talaga? Bakit?
Yung gamit niyo po, may nakita po akong gawa niyo po is about po sa MAPE teachers po, or music.
Yung nakapublish.
Yes, sir.
Pwede naman.
Thank you po.
Ano ba major mo?
Music, admin po, pero po ang akin pong turo ay music, pero po yung akin pong title is about din po sa may kinalaman sa administration and supervision po.
Sige, basta admin and supervision na kasi yung pang mapping. Merong ma-ed mape, baka maligaw ka. Iba ang mape sa ma-ed admin and supervision. Dapat tungkol talaga sa management.
Opo.
Education.
Thank you po.
Alright, no problem. May tanong pa ba? Kasi magmimisa pa ako. Tinan yun, nakapang-misa ako ngayon eh. To-close ni ko na lang.
Wala na po siguro para makapagpahinga po kayo.
Sige. Kung wala nang tanong, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your kind listening and for your precious time attending to my lecture. And I hope that you were able to browse the program. Ginawan ko kayo ng program, series of webinar, webinar series na gusto ko attendan ninyo kasi magaganda yung mga topics na nandun. Makakatulong yun sa inyo. No? At pag may time kayo, umattend kayo. And dapat talaga kayo umattend. Kasi
Yes,
no?
Yes po.
Alright. So kung wala nang tanong, maraming salamat ulit.